About 3 people killed inside a home in Coon Rapids on Friday. Anoka County officials only say the deaths at 94th Avenue Northwest are being investigated as a homicide.
A quiet suburban street, late afternoon, the kind of neighborhood where delivery trucks pass through every day. Packages arrive, doorbells ring, and most homeowners never think twice about the person standing outside holding a box. Because in today's world, package deliveries are routine. They are expected, trusted. A driver walks up the driveway. A cardboard box sits under one arm. A knock on the door. But on this particular day, something about the delivery was different. The person approaching the house was not a UPS driver. The package was not part of any delivery route. And the knock at the door was not meant to deliver anything. It was meant to lure someone outside. Within minutes, a routine moment would turn into a crime scene. And a doorbell camera, mounted near the front door, would capture the final moments before everything changed. Investigators would later review that footage over and over again, frame by frame, trying to understand exactly what happened. Because the man standing outside the door had come prepared with a disguise, prepared with a plan, and prepared to use deception to get exactly what he wanted. This is the story of a crime built on impersonation, a fake delivery, a deadly confrontation, and the investigation that followed. This is the fake UPS delivery. For most people, the sound of a delivery truck pulling into the neighborhood barely registers anymore. Online shopping has transformed the way people receive goods. Packages arrive daily. Drivers move quickly from house to house. And doorsteps have become temporary drop-off points for millions of deliveries each day. Because of that, most homeowners have developed a simple routine. When the doorbell rings and someone is standing outside with a package, the assumption is immediate. It's a delivery, no questions asked. The system relies almost entirely on trust. Trust that the person approaching the house is who they claim to be. Trust that the uniform they're wearing is legitimate. Trust that the box in their hands is exactly what it appears to be. But that trust can also be exploited. Because if someone wanted to approach a home without drawing suspicion, there are few disguises more effective than a delivery driver. The case that investigators would soon begin working on started exactly that way. In a residential neighborhood, everything appeared ordinary. Cars were parked along the street. Garbage bins sat near the curb. Fallen leaves covered portions of the driveway. Nothing about the scene suggested anything unusual. But at some point during the day, a man arrived in the area carrying a cardboard box. He was dressed in a brown jacket and a baseball cap. At a quick glance, his appearance closely resembled the typical attire worn by delivery drivers. And that detail was important, because his appearance allowed him to approach the home without raising suspicion. Neighbors who might have glanced out their windows would have seen nothing alarming. Just another delivery. Just another driver making a stop. But investigators would later determine that the package the man carried was not being delivered. It was a prop, a tool used to make the approach seem legitimate. As the suspect walked toward the house, he held the box in front of him in a way that looked natural, almost routine. He moved up the driveway and toward the front door. Mounted beside that door was a device that would soon become one of the most important pieces of evidence in the case: a doorbell camera. These devices have become common across the United States. They allow homeowners to monitor who approaches their homes. They record video whenever motion is detected. and they have helped investigators solve countless crimes. In this case, the camera activated the moment the suspect approached the door. The footage began recording. The man stood outside holding the package. For several seconds, he appeared calm, unhurried. He waited. From the perspective of the homeowner inside, everything appeared normal. A delivery driver had arrived. A package had been brought to the door. And the natural response was the same one millions of people make every day. Answer the door. But the person standing outside was not there to deliver anything. The package in his hands was empty of its intended purpose. Instead, it served only one function. It made the deception believable, because deception works best when it mirrors everyday life. And in this moment, the suspect relied entirely on the routine nature of package deliveries. He rang the doorbell. The sound echoed inside the home, and moments later, footsteps approached the door. The camera continued recording. The suspect shifted slightly, adjusting his grip on the box. His eyes moved toward the door, waiting. The homeowner reached for the handle. Inside the house, there was no reason to believe anything was wrong. From their perspective, someone had simply arrived with a delivery. But outside, the man holding the package had already set the stage for what would happen next. Because once the door opened, the situation would change instantly. And the deception that had allowed him to approach the home would give way to confrontation. Within seconds, the quiet neighborhood would become the center of a criminal investigation. An investigation that would soon involve detectives, forensic teams, and prosecutors. But at that moment, everything was still unfolding in real time. The door began to open, and the camera continued to record. What happened next would change the course of the entire case.
Yeah, just the emergency. Hello?
Oh my gosh. Give me the money. And I ain't playing. Look. Thank you, not shut up. I know. Hey, Mario Alberto. Come on with the money, man.
Inside the home, however, the situation had escalated rapidly. The homeowner had been confronted by someone who had arrived under a false identity, someone who had manipulated a simple routine to gain access to the property. Within moments, the situation had turned dangerous. Emergency services would soon receive calls reporting a violent incident. The details that came through those early reports were limited. But what responders understood immediately was that something serious had occurred at the residence. Police officers and emergency personnel were dispatched to the location. As they arrived, the calm atmosphere of the neighborhood had been replaced by flashing lights and urgency. The driveway that had earlier appeared quiet was now filled with patrol vehicles. Neighbors began stepping outside their homes, watching, trying to understand what had happened. Investigators quickly secured the scene. The area surrounding the house was treated as a potential crime scene. Officers began gathering information from witnesses, neighbors who had seen someone approach the home, others who had noticed a suspicious vehicle in the area earlier in the day. Each detail mattered, because in cases like this, the first few hours of an investigation are often the most important. Inside the house, investigators began documenting the scene. Every object, every piece of evidence, everything that could help explain what had occurred during the confrontation. But one piece of evidence was already not known to exist: the doorbell camera. The device mounted beside the door had captured the suspect arriving, and investigators hoped it might reveal more. Detectives retrieved the footage, carefully preserving the video as evidence. When they reviewed the recording, they saw exactly what had been described by early witnesses. A man approaching the house, a package in his hands, clothing that resembled that of a delivery driver. The footage showed him waiting calmly outside the door. But what the camera did not fully capture was the confrontation itself. Once the door opened, the most critical moments occurred just outside the frame. Moments investigators would need to reconstruct through other evidence. Still, the video provided something extremely valuable. A clear image of the suspect, his clothing, his physical appearance, and the package he had used as part of the disguise. Those details would soon become the foundation of the investigation, because identifying the man seen in the footage would become the top priority. Detectives began analyzing the video frame by frame, looking for anything that might help identify him. The type of jacket he was wearing, the style of hat, the box itself, even small details such as the way he walked. In many cases, suspects believe that disguises will prevent identification. But modern investigations rely on far more than appearances. Surveillance cameras, license plate readers, digital evidence, and witness statements all play a role in building a case. And as detectives continued examining the footage, they realized something important. The suspect had not attempted to hide his face completely. That decision would prove to be critical, because the clearer the image investigators could obtain, the easier it would be to identify him. Meanwhile, the story began spreading through the neighborhood. Residents who had earlier assumed the man was a delivery driver now understood something far more serious had taken place. A person had approached the house pretending to deliver a package, and that deception had led to violence. By the end of the day, the investigation had already expanded beyond the neighborhood. The confrontation had ended. The scene had been secured, and detectives were just beginning the process of uncovering the truth behind the fake delivery. For several hours after the bodies were discovered inside the home, investigators were working with more questions than answers. 3 people had been killed. 2 young children had been left alive inside the house, and the suspects had walked up to the front door disguised as delivery drivers. But despite the careful planning, the suspects had made one critical mistake. They had committed the crime inside a home filled with cameras. The house was equipped with surveillance systems that recorded both video and audio throughout multiple rooms. Outside the property, additional cameras had captured the suspects arriving and leaving the residence. Within hours, investigators began reviewing the footage. What they saw would become the foundation of the entire case. The cameras showed 3 men arriving at the home together. 2 of them were dressed in clothing designed to resemble UPS delivery uniforms. One of the men carried a cardboard box, the prop that would allow them to approach the house without raising suspicion. The door opened. Within minutes, the home invasion began. Inside the footage, investigators could see the suspects holding the victims at gunpoint while demanding money. One of the victims was beaten with a pistol. Another was forced into a bedroom. The violence unfolded quickly. By the time the suspects left the house, 3 people were dead. But the cameras had captured something even more important than the crime itself. They captured the suspects' faces. And once investigators had those images, identifying them became only a matter of time. The first major break came through the vehicle seen on camera. Investigators were able to track the car leaving the neighborhood shortly after the murders. That vehicle was registered to a man named Alonzo Pierre Mingo. Mingo had previously worked as a UPS driver, which explained how the suspects had obtained the uniform and why the disguise had looked convincing enough to get someone to open the door. Police located Mingo driving the vehicle not long after the killings. During the stop, investigators noticed something suspicious. Mingo attempted to throw his cell phone out of the window as officers approached, but the phone was recovered, and the digital evidence inside that phone would begin connecting the rest of the suspects. Call records and location data placed Mingo in communication with two other men, two brothers from Minneapolis, Demetrius Trenton Shumpert and Omari Shumpert. Among the three suspects, one stood out immediately, not because of his role in the crime, but because of who he was outside of it. Omari Shumpert was only 20 years old at the time of the trial. In parts of the Minneapolis area, he was known by a different name. In the local rap scene, he performed under the name Lil Blast. Like many young artists trying to gain attention online, Shumpert had released music and built a small following through social media. But behind the music career was a very different reality. Investigators say Shumpert was directly involved in the violence inside the house. Surveillance video showed him striking one of the victims with a pistol. When the victim attempted to fight back, Shumpert fired a shot that killed him. DNA evidence later linked ammunition recovered from the home to Shumpert. Cell phone data also placed him with the other suspects before and after the crime. The investigation was now beginning to come together. 3 suspects, 3 victims, and hours of video footage documenting exactly what happened inside the house.
Do you know the incident I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. So you have no idea?
I know that somebody got locked up.
Who got locked up?
Somebody is a name that you saying.
Who got locked up?
The name that you saying. You said Alonzo, somebody's name Alonzo or something like that.
Okay. But you know Alonzo?
Yeah, a little bit. I know of him.
Okay. You knew more of just of him, right? You guys go way back.
No.
To Chicago.
I'll say yeah.
I won't somewhat of the same level of respect, right?
Yeah, but
we do our
like you said way back, like basically like friends, anything like that? No. Not
friends.
No.
All right. But you've known him all the way back to Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Where are you living now?
Huh?
Where are you living now?
Alone in Minneapolis.
When's the last time you talked with Alonzo?
I'm gonna say like a month ago or something like that.
A month ago?
Like a month and a half, I think.
A month and a half ago?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a lot. So that was already on camera. That was already put on the news. It already showed Alonzo shooting a person. Okay? I don't know if I explained it well to you or not, but the more information I tell you, the less you can tell me to
No,
help.
but I was saying you can't tell me about that because I heard about it. The whole world know about it.
Sure.
That's everywhere you go everywhere. And you heard about what happened. Somebody got killed in Coon Rapids. 4 or 5 people. How many more people got killed? I don't know.
Okay.
So what did I do?
You were there.
Wasn't there.
You were. I mean, you're probably not going to take my word for it or anything, but I'm not lying to you. I'm not making stuff up. We had the pull camera. Well, somebody had a pull camera in the house. When we see it pull up, we see the 3 of you get out, walk up to the house, just you and Alonzo. He knocks on the door. You don't come to the door at first, and you start walking away. Because you guys are partway down the street, or partway down the driveway. He comes outside, so you guys walk back. Okay? On the door there was a camera. And you had gloves on, you had a mask on, but we're still able to tell it's you.
With a mask on.
Yeah. Okay? And then, who'd you wave up?
I didn't wave nobody.
You're sitting in the car and you waved him up.
You said I was sitting in the car?
No, he was sitting in the car. The third person was sitting in the car and you waved him up.
I don't know.
Okay?
I don't know who that was. I don't know who that was with no mask on, but it showed it wasn't me. You didn't ask me where was I at, or was I somewhere else, or was nothing.
I know where you were, but where were you? And then I'll follow up on that. And
you know I was there already, right? That what you said?
I do. But if you were saying you're somewhere else, you tell me where you were, who you talked to, and I'll follow up with them and rule you out. That's only fair, right?
That's crazy. You say on the 13th?
The 26th. January 26th.
I know I wasn't there. I wasn't at nobody else. I wasn't at nobody's house.
Okay. We go in the crime scene, the whole 9 yards. You're touching your face. You're hitting the.
Now see?
Yeah, I'll grab them.
You said I'm hitting what?
You're touching your face. You had a mask on. Yeah. You're touching your face. You're touching the lizard cage. You're touching your face. You're touching different areas. You're breathing through the mask.
Within weeks of the murders, police arrested all 3 men connected to the crime. Alonzo Pierre Mingo, Demetrius Trenton Shumpert, Omari Malik Shumpert. Prosecutors charged the suspects with multiple counts of murder tied to the home invasion. As the case moved toward trial, prosecutors relied heavily on the evidence captured inside the house. The surveillance footage, the DNA evidence, the cell phone records placing the suspects together. Each piece reinforced the same narrative. This was not a random act of violence. It was a planned robbery carried out under the disguise of a delivery driver. And it had ended with 3 people dead. The trials for the suspects took place separately, but the outcome was ultimately the same. Jurors were shown the footage from inside the home. They watched the suspects enter the house. They watched the victims being threatened. And they watched the moments leading up to the shootings. For prosecutors, the case was unusually direct. There were no eyewitnesses needed. The cameras had already recorded everything. Jurors found the suspects guilty on multiple counts of murder tied to the home invasion. Under Minnesota law, convictions for first-degree murder carry a mandatory sentence. Life in prison.
Yeah, I lost round 1. They gave me 3 L's, but that was round 1. I wasn't fully prepared to step in the ring with them. I ain't know my Liz co-defendant Omari Shumpert, the little rapping bitch nigga called himself Lil Blast on YouTube, was gonna take the stand at my trial and tell lies. The nigga even told on his mom and his brother. Shit crazy. Hey, the transcript's on my page. All you gotta do is go look and go check it out for yourself. I ain't know my lawyers was gonna be trash. They was like garbage cans with arms, legs, and a mouthpiece. Picture that. I ain't know I would have an all-white jury or an old miserable bitch as a judge. Diana Streets never gave me a fighting chance. My case was politics to her. It wasn't about justice or fairness. For round 2, I'm gonna be overly prepared, overly focused, overly determined, overly aware, and overly strategic, and I will win. Them 3 L's, they getting them back. That's a check you can take to any bank of cash. Hey, victory comes with perseverance. Relief comes after affliction, and ease after hardship. I'ma persevere because I'm resilient. I'm on to something. Thanks for all the real love, even the fake love too. Yeah, I lost round 1, but staying tuned for round 2. 100.
Criminal investigations rarely begin with clear answers. More often, they begin with fragments. A witness statement, a piece of surveillance footage, a detail that at first seems insignificant. But when investigators begin connecting those fragments together, a story begins to emerge. A timeline, a motive, and eventually, the truth. The case you've just seen is a reminder of how easily deception can blend into everyday life. A uniform, a cardboard box, a knock at the door, simple things that most people would never question. But sometimes those small details are part of something much larger. And when investigators begin examining those details closely, the truth often reveals itself. One piece of evidence at a time. For Global Casefile, these stories are not only about crime, they are about the investigations that follow, the evidence that brings hidden plans to light, and the process that ultimately leads to justice. Because every case leaves behind a trail, and somewhere along that trail, the truth is waiting to be uncovered. Until next time, this is Global Casefile.